About 3 years ago, I was out on a shoot and a trip with a really good friend of mine and one of my favorite photographers. And what he said to me kind of changed my films. He mentioned to me that he thought I was overexposing a lot of my shots. Not technically, technically they were still exposed properly within the histogram and not necessarily blown out, but around sunset I was having my shots just be a little bit too bright to the point where I was missing out on capturing some of the beautiful different colors that were up in the sky. So if you take a look at this shot in Hawaii that I took, you'll see that the sky, it's not necessarily bad, but I'm missing on a lot of detail in the sky and I'm missing a lot of colors. And part of that is the time of day. It would have been hard to expose for both the foreground and the horizon because they're different. But what he said to me really changed my perspective on this. And ever since then, I've kind of approached my exposure, especially at sunset and early in the morning, very differently. So I found out that what the problem was, why I was overexposing things, I was focused too much on both my histogram and my zebra stripes, which are the two tools that I use to expose for my GH5 while I'm filming. I have a video on how I do that linked below. But I was focused too much on these two tools and just making sure that my shots were aligned within the guidelines of my histogram and that my zebra stripes weren't showing up on the screen. And in the process of that, I wasn't necessarily using my eyes to look at what I actually wanted to see and how I wanted the shot to be exposed aesthetically. I was only looking at these tools. So what I started to do is, use the histogram and the zebra stripes a little bit, but then after that, I would just use my eyes and decide how I want to expose the image. And, all of these shots that you're seeing now, I've underexposed them just a little bit more than usual, just to pull out some of those beautiful colors in the sky, the beautiful color that reflects off the ocean. As I mentioned before, I wasn't necessarily blown out, but when I had the images a bit brighter, you kind of miss out on that contrast and the detail of the color of all the different beautiful things going on. So basically, I'm just trying to encourage you guys, just sometimes you need to put the tools aside. Don't necessarily just focus on your histogram and all of that, but remember to use your eyes and look at your image and just decide, artistically, how do you want this to look? Maybe you want that person to be a silhouette, so you're gonna drop or you're gonna raise that f-stop up and make it a little bit darker, and that's totally fine. Get creative with it. Don't just expose in a boring way. I basically was a robot for the first couple of years I was filming, just trying to have my image evenly spread out across the histogram, and now I'm trying to basically expose using my eyes a bit more and not necessarily just the tools. So on that, it's also important to note time of day. I used to think that sunset and golden hour was when the sun was still in the sky, when there was still like 30 or 40 minutes left of light. And my perspective on that has changed. I'm gonna do a video on that as well, but it's basically, I kind of only really shoot for like 10 minutes in the night around sunset and 10 minutes in the morning when I have the luxury to do that, because those 10 minutes, those first 10 minutes of light in the morning, everything's so evenly lit, the contrast, the beautiful colors in the sky, it just kind of makes all your other shots look like garbage. And we don't always have the luxury to do that, but yeah, I urge you guys to kind of take a look at different shooting during different times of day, trying to get that golden hour or that blue hour. And then also just, don't always focus on the tools, use your eyes and decide how you creatively want to expose something. Hopefully that's helpful for some of you out there. I know it was helpful advice for me, just to try out some different exposing techniques. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Check out my video on how I expose using my Lumix GH5 if you want some more info, and I will see you guys in the next video.